What's up, guys? It's Lonely MMA, and as we all know, the White House card is only a week away at this point, and I can hardly believe it myself. I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people just doubting the entire thing when it was announced last July. I mean, I thought it was just like Atlantis, just a place that does not exist, because I thought there was no way that they were actually gonna have fights on the White House lawn. I've always figured that one way or another, something would come up and they'd just move it to Vegas or something like that, but nope. It's actually happening. And something I'm sure not even Doctor Strange from the Avengers could have looked into the future and saw was this event taking place on a Sunday. So for that reason, me, you, yes, we all are calling out of work Monday and drinking a gazillion beers Sunday night watching these fights. No, but really, with this video used to the title, I want to talk about one fight on this card in particular because with almost all of the fights, they're pretty one-sided. Like, if you look at the odds, almost all of them have a big favorite in them. The only one that's, like, relatively close is Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia. And then there's one fight that is truly a 50-50, and that's the one I'm going to talk about today. And that fight is Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane. Right now, the odds for this fight are exactly 50-50, minus 113 both ways. The funny thing is, though, with this fight, I don't think it will be close whatsoever. And I'm saying that going with the Ciryl Gane side of things because I think Ciryl Gane is going to absolutely school Alex Pereira. And now I do just want to preference, by school I don't mean he's going to go out there and showtime kick Alex Pereira and knock him out cold in the first round. I'm more so thinking that he's going to go out there and get a very clear decision win or finish Alex Pereira in the later rounds. Like, I could even see him getting like a 3-2 decision, but it's similar to like Merab versus Sean O'Malley 1, where it was a 3-2, yeah, but it was a very clear 3-2. And now the reason I'm saying all this is because if you look at who Alex Pereira really struggled against in the UFC, if you take out the Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev 1 fight, because those ones, I think Pereira was just sort of off his game originally because of the wrestling threat that both those guys posed that Ciryl Gane I don't think for the most part is going to pose. The main guy who has given Pereira trouble in the UFC besides those two has been Israel Adesanya. Like, if you look at the Izzy vs Pereira fights, Adesanya was clearly winning the first fight until he got knocked out with like 2 minutes left in the 5th round. Then the second one, he goes out there and puts him out. And I think the main struggle with Pereira against Adesanya was the fact that Adesanya was willing to let Pereira walk him down the entire fight and fight off his back foot. Whereas if you look at a lot of the dudes who Pereira has beat, like Yuri, Jamal Hill, Khalil Roundtree, Sean Strickland, all those guys were trying. Their game plan was to get Pereira off his back foot. And they all either failed that game plan or they just ended up walking into something big. And Ciryl Gane is not going to be the type of guy who's going to go in there and try and take the center of the octagon. He's going to get on his horse and move around the ring, very similar to how Adesanya does it. And it's not like he's never deployed this tactic before other than the Aspinall fight. He did this in the Ngannou fight and it worked well because he didn't get knocked out or even really stunned by one of the hardest hitters in the UFC. And he actually made Francis Ngannou realize that the only way he was beating this dude is if he took him down, and that's what he did, and that's sort of what cost Ciryl Gane the fight. But really, the only thing I see Alex actually giving Ciryl Gane some problems with are the leg kicks, because for that, there's really not much you can do about him. Gane's just going to have to check him and keep on moving. And just like all around, I see so much more pathways to victory for Ciryl Gane than Alex Pereira, because for Pereira, all I can see is just him going out there and getting an early stoppage. Very similar to how his entire light heavyweight title run was. And you look at the Ankalaev fight, that was the literal definition of being dragged in the deep waters, because Pereira just didn't put up much resistance in the later rounds in that fight. Like in the 4th or 5th round of that fight, I think it was, he just let Ankalaev hold him up against the cage for the entire round. Now, another thing in this fight, too, that I haven't even gone to is the fact that it's Pereira's first fight at heavyweight. Who really knows how he's going to look in there? He could look a lot smaller or just like a natural heavyweight. But one thing for sure, he will not be the bigger guy in this fight. And that's something that's pretty new to him because in a lot of his fights, he's the bigger guy because he cuts an insane amount of weight. So I could even see Gane stealing a few rounds by putting him up against the cage in the clinch, getting some elbows, knees to the stomach in there, and just being the bigger guy. And also with Pereira, there's one thing I've always been a little bit suspect of him, but like it's one of those things you just don't have enough evidence to prove it, and it's that I think his chin he does leave out there at times, and it is a little bit suspect in my opinion. Like Ankalaev almost knocked him out in that first fight. He might have if there was more time in the round, and also both the Izzy fights, the first one, he probably also would have got knocked out if there was more time in the round. And then, yeah, in the second one, he did get knocked out. And also, it's so easy to forget about this factor just because of how good the guy has been in the UFC. But Alex Pereira is 38 years old, turns 39 next month. At some point, things gotta slow down to where you're just not able to hang with these top level guys, especially with someone like Ciryl Gane, who you're gonna have to be on the move to try and get him, cutting off the cage, doing all that kind of stuff to actually have a chance to put him out. And at the age of 38, even having 8 months off in between your fight, you could feel a lot different going into your next fight. So right there is another factor. So in all, I think we're in for a Ciryl Gane masterclass at the White House. Who knows though? I do just want to say I am an Alex Pereira fan. I do like Alex Pereira, even though this video I was dogging on him a lot. As always though, let me know your thoughts on this fight down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.